Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and good afternoon. We are live now on to another CxO show, which is happening from the platform of CxO Global Forum. I welcome all the participants, and I'll introduce each one of them separately because they carry very rich and very remarkable experience for especially related to today's subject, that is employee recognition, the ultimate retention tool. So before I introduce each panelist, and Mr. Shakil Mapara is joining us. Shakil, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, very much. You are very loud and clear. So let
All
me
right.
let me continue. Shakil, we are just about to start introducing the subject, and then I'll introduce the panelist, and then we will come to the discussion. So today's subject, employee recognition, the ultimate retention tool, is something which is very very pertinent, important, and is assuming more and more importance with every passing day, especially because of the fact that in this part of the world, in our country, we keep talking about it, as I mentioned while introducing the subject in one of my LinkedIn posts as well. Much talked about, but very less understood. So when we talk about recognition, we generally what comes to our mind is our recognition initiatives or recognition programs that will happen monthly in some organizations, quarterly in others, or perhaps semi-annual as well. And that's what we deem to be that we are recognizing our employees very regularly, and we do not really understand perhaps, and for which I will be requesting my panelists to shed light on. So recognition is something that is related to making the organization, in my humble opinion, a happy organization. And a happy organization is one which has a vibrant culture, a learning culture. Everyone is happy and everyone is trying to contribute their best for their own learning and growth as well, and for the growth and learning of the organization also. And for that, we try and come up with tools, with programs that relates to recognition, but lesser said the better. Not many organizations are supremely successful in understanding the importance, the practicality, and the application of recognition as a concept and a philosophy. And that is what we are going to discuss today in today's CxO show. I'll start with the introduction of my eminent panelist we have today with us, starting from Mr. Rizwan Dalia. Mr. Rizwan Dalia is Chief People Officer at K Electric. He's a qualified chartered accountant, has a very distinguished career. He has worked in finance and corporate affairs and legal. He's been with K Electric for almost now 12 years. Before that, he worked for some of the most illustrious names even before that. So, and K Electric has gone in through a great transformation in last as much number of years as Mr. Rizwan has been with K Electric. Great transformation, successful case study. A lot has been done, right from introducing a new platform for where employees can interact and where their database can be maintained, and a lot more others. Change management exercise, massive one. I think one of the finest case studies the country has to offer. So we have with us now the next panelist is Ms. Saima Imam, who is head of HR at Ghulam Farooq Group. Saima also has a very distinguished career. She has been head of HR at Inbox Technologies. She has worked for names like Pfizer. She has worked for names like PwC, and now is also managing right now and leading that exercise of change management, because Ghulam Farooq Group is currently in the final stages of implementing success factors, and she is driving the whole process across the group, which consists of 6 organizations. So welcome to Rizwan and Saima. Now I'll move to the last 2 panelists, Mr. Adil Riaz. Adil is Director HR for Pakistan Cables, and Adil has been a torchbearer of a lot of initiatives that he has undertaken in his career, both with local corporates, multinationals, and also internationally. So he has worked for organizations like Albatha Group, Shell Pakistan, PTCL, this K Electric as well, and now he's leading the HR transformation at Pakistan Cables. So we are going to take his views and his experiences also when it comes to recognition. Last but not the least, my friend Mr. Shakil Mapara, Director HR for Sanofi Avantis. Shakil has had an equally distinguished career. He has been a veteran of HR in Pakistan. He has worked for organizations like Engro, American Express, Sanofi Avantis, and many more actually. And we all have been getting bits and pieces from him on his HR wisdom, on his people management, and the way he comes across and handles big challenges very swiftly. I mean, he comes up, he does it so effortlessly that I hope someday I'll be able to manage things in my organization or in my area of expertise the way Shakil does. So welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
and now I would request each one of you separately to take 5 minutes or so. It can be a bit over 5 minutes because we want to conclude this show for the benefit of the audience who are viewing us and who will view us later on as well. This is just to introduce a bit about the forum before I request Mr. Rizwan to come up with his comments on the subject. This Global CxO Forum, the founder, Mr. Kamal Masroor, I think he has come up with a great idea to assemble all, I would say, professional minds on one platform, and he is taking great strides in that. And they are coming up with regular programs, talk shows, assembly of such people, so that all of us can benefit. So I really kudos to Kamal for bringing us all together. And also the fact that this program right now is going live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook at the same time. I would also like to thank Sohail, who has been instrumental in bringing us all together as well, technologically as well. So yes, Mr. Rizwan, your comments on the subject.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and thank you Ashar Bhai for this opportunity and CxO Global Forum as well. And as you mentioned in your LinkedIn post, something which has been mostly talked about but less practiced. And for that reason, I would like to start with two myths or things that usually are taken for granted in the industry. And then we can keep our conversation going. The number one thing that is something I usually talk about internally as well, that as soon as the word employee comes in any kind of intervention, it is somewhat given a impression that only HR department or the people function is responsible for it, and there we actually drop the ball, that this is not something that is to be done by HR and ensured by HR. And as soon as it becomes an HR thing, then obviously you have to have the right kind of process, the right kind of framework. So things get marred into administration and a number of processes whereby the real thing gets defeated. So this is something all the leaders and especially the non-HR ones have to understand, and we as HR leaders have to preach within our corporates as well as our influence areas, that this is not something for HR to ensure only. Uh, each and every leader, and no matter what level of organization they are working in, this is something to be practiced and done on a day-to-day basis. The number two myth that is usually confused, and a lot has been written about it as well. If you look at the good authors that have done it, then there is also a myth, and people confuse praise with recognition. So a number of times people just think that praise only does the trick, but from my perspective, both are important. And there are times when only praise does it well, but there are times that the employees or somebody who has done a lot on a project or something that has taken a long time, that there is something specific to be understood by the leaders, and also praised in a manner that the person can really think that yes, the leader understands what has gone in that project or process. And when the praise comes out specifically, then one can also relate to it and can feel that the leader is empathetic about whatever is being done within a function or a project or anything which is being praised. So these are the two things which I would like to start with. that I think these two things should be taken care of. And leaders, when they recognize or praise, both are important, should differentiate. And this is something that can be learned through practice. And once you start doing it, then you will see that you are yourself conscious about the fact that where praise is necessary or where recognition is necessary, and then you will also start seeing the result as well. There are a couple of more things that I would like to talk about here is uh, the instantness or readily done thing. Uh, we all as HR fraternity now realize, and there are, and we have all seen the policies around long service award, 10 years, 15 years, 25 years. So this is all losing traction. And why? Because you can't wait for 25 years to appreciate somebody, to appreciate someone's good work, someone's good attendance, someone's good behavior. So these are things which are losing track because people need to be appreciated now. People need to be appreciated and given recognition at the moment that they are doing. So this is something the whole fraternity is realizing, and that also gives a lot of agility to the process as well, because we used to see a long process whereby this document has to be done, then a few people will review it, and then only somebody can be recognized. So a lot is being done by our HR fraternity. This is something which we are doing well, and we should continue. Is something kind of instant recognition and rewards. And I would say in KE as well, we practice something about care spin. So we have cares as our employee his values, and one can be instantly recognized by a leader giving. And we all carry. I have also in my drawer at least 8 to 10 pins, which I normally keep, and wherever there is something happens. So either in a town hall whereby you praise in front of you appreciate people in front of other people, or even sometimes you see something good happening, you can just call in somebody and give that pin to them. So that carries a lot of value. And if that is done on a very regular basis, then you create a culture of recognition, and that also creates a connect between the senior leaders and the other people, because they see that they don't wait for a big ceremony to be held. If they see something good happening, then they recognize then and there. The last thing that I would want to emphasize here is doing away with the culture of reward and reprimand. Yes, both are necessary, but at the same point in time, there is so much stress and there is so much pressure around whatever we do in our day-to-day work. So वो जैसे अल्लाह ताला भी जो है वो नेकी पे 70 गुना देते हैं, और बुरे काम पे एक काम करते हैं. So that's how we should also practice that. Yes, ऐसा भी ना हो कि we should overdo it. At the same point in time, I personally feel that appreciation and recognition is more valued, and creates a better organization. As regards, if you try to balance it out, that for example we will appreciate 3 people, so at the same point in time we will reprimand 3, so this will not do the trick. We should appreciate more and reprimand wherever is required, but at the same point in time the focus should be more on appreciation and recognition. So I'll stop here, and then let's hear from other panelists, and then we can continue.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think very aptly highlighted, especially जो दो myths थी कि एक जिसमें HR is responsible for recognition, और दूसरी myth कि जी praise only will do the job. तो दोनों बातें बड़ी ही बिल्कुल दुरुस्त हैं. और आखिरी फलसफा जो आपने दिया, 1 पे 70 का और 1 पे 1 का, ये तो बहुत ही उम्दा है. I think this is something which is my personal takeaway from today. So let's move on to the next panelist. I would request Adil to talk about the subject. And then let's see, Badil, mashallah, बहुत ही जबरदस्त experience है. So Adil, please, over to you.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, very much.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much. And I think what Rizwan Sab has said, K Electric being my ex-employer is one of the great example of recognition, employee recognition. And just picking up from there, so why employee recognition is, as a definition, is all about acknowledging the hard work and achievement of your people, your teamwork, is आसान सी definition है. So we should be very much mindful and cognizant that the world and the work is now rapidly moving and changing, and the more focus is on towards the generation Zers and the millennials in the entire population of the organization. That would make the most of the workforce in the coming years to see, and actually in the fast pace organizations, you can see these people are now more and more coming in as per our management trainee philosophy and induction of the organization, and that they seek autonomy and the sense of belonging and recognition at the workplace. अगर उनको at the spot कुछ चीज नहीं मिलती है, तो that would be a nightmare for them, and it would be a tension risk for them. Hence, it's also important to embed employee recognition initiatives as part of your, I understand, part of your reward strategy, because reward strategy does not mean that you reward them after a year. Reward could be henceforth and a spot sort of a thing, which Rizwan has actually mentioned, and he has some pins. Picking up from those pins, and I have also implemented those sort of strategies in my organization as a spot awards. And these reward strategies helps in supporting the work of an employee, and they do stay authentic in your organization, and that translates into the vision and the values of the organization. Perhaps we, as an ancient people and old timers, don't realize the changing dynamics of this population. Secondly, when employees are working remotely, and we have come out from the pandemic sort of a situation whereby people are now more flexible or maybe low adaptable to working remotely, and an ever-changing business reality, ensuring that the employee recognizes their efforts. So employer recognizes their efforts and encouraging them into key long-term success and retention in the organization. A couple of days back, I was going through a survey, perhaps it was a World Bank survey, that 87 to 90% of the organizations, they're having a staff recognition and employee recognition frameworks in place. It could range from employee of the month, which we talk about, bonuses and the gift cards. And while some organizations offer traditional recognitions, such as maybe informal and unconventional ways of recognizing, pat on the back and stuff like that. So I recommend, other than the old orthodox and the traditional long service awards, sports awards, quarterly awards, 6 monthly awards, which translates into the monetary thing, there could be 5 to 7. And Ashar bhai, mujhe rok dijiyega if I keep on actually going, because we have done some diagnostics in our organization, so we have picked up few things. So maybe if you can, if we as an organization and employers can go tech savvy, and that means that one of the best way of recognizing our people in this digitization sort of word is to acknowledge people publicly, such as the achievements of the employees on the internet, on your social media. These are sort of replicas of the spot recognition. You use your company website, social handles, Facebook, Instagram, to recognize and appreciate your employees. That in that way, your stakeholders, the external stakeholder, will also take notice of your commitment towards the employee value proposition. And the definition of the employee value proposition is not very, not easily digested by people. It is not only the monetary, it is all about the experience in the organization. So your stakeholders recognizes that, and they can see that your employees can reshare those recognitions and awards. add their Twitter and Instagram handles, and they can be seen by the family and the friends. Because if you see something on the LinkedIn that you've been recognized of doing one good thing, maybe it is related to the HSC where you have saved somebody and you have been trained by your HSC to go to do some CPR, and you have saved somebody. So that gives you a great sense of achievement in an organization. So this is one. Secondly, in addition to what I'm trying to say, invest in the interest of an individual. And while organizations tend to look at the on spot, the gift card, कोई lunch करा दिया, कुछ कर दिया. So you should invest. Organizations invest in their interests, such as giving them the gift with their experiences, such as if somebody is interested in some language course. Perhaps maybe somebody wanted to move to Dubai in my team, and then he wanted to learn an Arabic language course. So I do understand that would be a retention risk, but other than the typical training or learning needs identified in your performance cycle every year, perhaps you can actually pick up something related to their interest. अगर किसी को नेटफ्लिक्स का शौक है तो उसको सब्सक्रिप्शन दिलवा दें, किसी ने स्कूबा डाइविंग करनी है तो उसको उसकी फैमिली को but try to actually pick up those interests, because these millennials and Gen Zs are very much senti sort of individuals working in the organization. Maybe a phone credit, or maybe yeah.
Yeah, I think two things that I picked up from your opening comments are wonderful. One is, which actually was initiated by Rizwan, but recognition on the go. Then you spoke something brilliant about the whole experience turning into recognition for the employee and usage of social media. I think that's when we talk about sport awards. Sport awards are much more appreciated these days when they are visible to the whole world rather than only within the organization. I really appreciate those comments. Now I come to
last. I'm sorry. Before you move, last, and it's also about inclusion is also an appreciation, and you ask for assistance while working on the projects. Because the more you become inclusive in the meetings and the discussions, is also an employee recognition. These are my few cents. Apologies for my interruption here.
Not at all. Yes, Shakil, your views on the subject.
Okay, thank you, Asher. Quite interesting discussion going on, and I appreciate the comments by Mr. Rizwan and Mr. Adil. Of course, they spelled out quite a lot of tools and quite a lot of ways that we can recognize. I would begin with the fact that as a society in Pakistan, or as a society in some other countries, we are not an appreciating society, really. We do not appreciate people. Generally, if you go outside or some other advanced countries or whatever it is, you find people thanking you. They have an expression of smile. They have an expression of a way to recognize what you've done. It's genuine. Unfortunately, in our culture, in our country, we have lost out on this one. And there are not really people that I find that on the roads that I just, you can just hold a door for someone and ask someone to go inside. Do you get a thank you for them? Nothing, because it's just they just pass on. So as a society, as a culture, we have failed to recognize. How many times do we appreciate our own domestic servants that you've done a great job? All I hear are screams back and forth. Or our security guards, or anyway, just thanking them for a small aspect that they do that. So when it comes from that culture, when we are not really trying to appreciate people, it becomes more and more difficult. So the tools can be there, of course, whether it's service awards or these are fun activities that you send anyone. Secondly, it's not about, to me, just just one section of the people, because it's very important what Adil said, that the younger generation, coming from much more tempered kind of the way they have been brought up, every person, regardless of the age, regardless of the gender, regardless of the diverse culture, they need recognition. So they need appreciation. It's a day-to-day thing. Then all these recognition activities do not work unless the culture is genuine in organizations. That is, people are respected. That is, that you follow the values. If there is no respect and the organization is full of, sorry to use the word, lethal or political, unfortunately, these recognition activities, getting onto the stage, recognizing, getting the CEO, getting applause, it doesn't make a difference. because what happens is the back of the stage, things are going different. And rightly said also by Adil, there is not an HR thing. Unless a person genuinely with a body expression, which is, you have to recognize, you have to make sure that the body expression, the face expression is right. It's not just handing over a $50,000 check to someone and you'll feel happy. It will be good. But at the same time, other thing is important is that we have basically got to see that the person is being recognized by whom. One is the HR or the CEO, whatever. But unless the supervisor genuinely doesn't appreciate, it doesn't work. So I agree with Adil on that fact that it's everyone. So while we talk about the tools, while we talk about numerous ways, it's important that you first fix up your culture of having respect within the organizations. How many times do we find people greeting the CEO or the HR or the directors in the same way they greet the guard or the bodyguard? It's either a stiff face when we walk across this other people, but when we meet somebody senior, I see people and I keep on telling people that the way you greet people down to the up makes a lot of difference. And when you create this culture, you recognize it's very good. And it's the small things that can help, like they've been spelled out, and I'm not going to repeat them. So to me, recognition is making any incident, any time, is making it more like a ceremony. And the most important part is when you hand over your appraisals or you hand over your increment letters or your performance, how do you make this? It's not just giving out congratulations 15%, but this is a one-to-one discussion that makes a person satisfied. So that's to me is a recognition measure, very frankly speaking. The tools are there, but the way the platform has to be built before the tools become alive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shakil. And as expected, you have given it a philosophical, broader perspective to the whole subject, that either recognition is there, if it's there in the culture of the organization, or it's not there. So we need to work more broadly to be more inclusive, to develop this culture of recognition. So it's not a one-off activity as such. And also the way you related it to the societal culture that we have in place, where appreciation and recognition doesn't come naturally to us the way we grow up in this society. So thank you very much for those great opening comments. I would request, not the least, Ms. Saima Imam. Saima, obviously you are. But first of all, thank you very much for taking time out on a week off weekend. But काफी कुछ इस वक्त आप कर रही हैं वहाँ पर जो मेरी knowledge में है. So how much I would really request you to relate to it, or recognition as a challenge कैसा है, and what do you feel, and what are your recommendations?
Right. So thank you so much for having me. आदिल साहब ने, रिजवान साहब, शकील साहब, सबने बड़ी amazing अपना experience share किया है. I would like to start from the retention part, which is ultimately, the ultimate retention tool, employee recognition. So just wanted to share with you all. Recently, I was watching a case study on BBC. The world's largest contract electronic manufacturing company in China, Foxconn. They are the largest manufacturer of iPods, iPads, iPhone and all. They have recently announced that any employee who stays with us for at least 90 days will get an additional bonus for a year. So can you believe this? 90 days retention for the world's largest electronic contract manufacturer company in China. So this is the times that we are living in. I personally believe, I think Adil Saab what said, Spot Awards, Long Service Award, 20 years Long Service Award, 15 years Long Service Award. Here we're talking about 90 days retention. So
paradigm shift.
Time has changed big time. And we need to come out of those conventional recognition tools and all. I can personally tell you from my little experience, a shout out on a LinkedIn platform for my team member works wonder for them. A great team player, to just post on the LinkedIn. I do this for my all, team member. They are young, bright kids and they love it. So I believe the horizon has changed, and we should also well, having said that, I work for a family-owned business, a wonderful set of people, wonderful set of leaders, and I'm not saying कि ये वाला तरीका गलत है या नया वाला तरीका सही है. We have to find a balance. We just cannot serve the same menu to all. So there has to be a blend. There has to be a hybrid, concept. जहाँ पर there are old timers and they value them equally as much as we value the millennials and the young blood in the organization. Uh, from my personal experience of all those years I've been associated with corporate sector, we tend to, being an HR professional, I feel I'm guilty. We just go with the, एक set in stone type के जो practices होते हैं हम उसी को follow कर रहे होते हैं until to date. We really don't focus कि आप generally हो ये रहा होता है कि we focus on the performance only and we tend to recognize and reward performances only. However, the overall behavior part and all, वो शायद मेरी नज़र में, मेरे experience में, this is my opinion, उस पर इतना focus नहीं किया जा रहा होता. So eventually, this reward and recognition, we just cannot look at recognition only in silo. I mean, it has to be looked at, in all-encompassing way. कि जी rewards plus recognition. So when we talk particularly about recognition, which is also the topic of today's discussion, I think it has to be something which is relational, should be able to build some emotional connect with the organization, be it in the form of a certificate, be in the form of, just calling up an employee in one of the town halls and giving a pat on the back and all. So I think आप लोगों ने भी अभी ये बात की है, it doesn't come naturally to us. We are not the nation जो कि हम अपने घर के हाउस हेल्प को इनको डेली बेसिस पर या कभी गलती से भी हम उनको कुछ शाबाशी देते हैं. I think this is in our culture. So we need to make some conscious efforts, or effort should be genuine, should be sincere. लोगों को पता हो, उनको दिख रहा हो कि अगर मुझे एक सर्टिफिकेट मिल रहा है तो मैनेजमेंट इज वेरी सिंसियर एंड जेन्युइन, उनको फील आए. इट्स नॉट जस्ट रन ऑफ द मिल थिंग कि जी वो क्वार्टर में एक दफा जाकर उनको एक सर्टिफिकेट पकड़ा दिया. आई कैन टेल यू एम्प्लॉयज आर वेरी स्मार्ट. दे कैन सेंस कि क्या सेंटिमेंट्स हैं, क्या उसके पीछे इंटेंशंस हैं. So for me, it's really important that whatever you do in all your efforts, you should be very sincere, very genuine, and there has to be an emotional connect, because in the end, this all recognition program और ये सारी जो obviously tools मौजूद हैं, बेतहाशा tools मौजूद हैं, बेतहाशा examples मौजूद हैं, और many organizations they practice it all, and it gives results also. But for me, I think कुछ मिस्टेक्स है जो हम कर रहे होते हैं कि जस्ट रिवॉर्डिंग परफॉर्मेंस, इट्स उसको ज़्यादा फोकस किया जा रहा होता है इंस्टेड ऑफ बिहेवियर्स. मोस्टली हमारी सोसाइटी में कम्स डाउन कि जी कुछ मॉनेटरी शक्ल में हो तो बेहतर है, सो आई थिंक दोस आर सम ऑफ द मिस्टेक्स जनरली जो कि की जा रही होती है. एट टाइम्स पीपल ऑल्सो कंप्लेन कि दीज स्पॉट्स अवार्ड्स एंड ऑल, देयर इज अ लैक ऑफ ट्रांसपेरेंसी. It's kabhi aapne shuru kiya, then you abandon the program. So all these things, I think in totality, thoda sa hame dekhna chahiye ki what are the mistakes we make, when developing an employee recognition program, and how to go about it. I would also like to hear from other panelists here ki in their experience, kabhi aisa hua ki they initiated a program and they had to abandon it because of XYZ reason. Because we face this. I mean, I personally face this at times कि it didn't work well. लोगों को थोड़ा सा वो एक lack of transparency का issue था. Maybe we were making some mistakes on our way. So, well, that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saima. I think very good observations, and I'll pick up three of them which you just said, and are very meaningful. One relates to the emotional connect. Second one relates to the recognizing or rewarding the how part of the assignment, and that's something which is utterly missing, or very very little which we see in practicality today. What को तो हम रिवॉर्ड कर रहे होते हैं कि जी KPIs आपके ये थे और आपका अचीवमेंट इतना है, और इसी पर आपको जो इस क्वार्टर आपने अचीव किया है या एम्प्लॉय ऑफ द मंथ के लिए या एनुअल इंक्रीमेंट्स के लिए but how part is generally missed out. Jabki overall culture development में that how part goes a long way in determining the overall culture of the organization. तो वो बड़ी जबरदस्त बात थी. और फिर तीसरी बात जो आपने की about consistency of that particular initiative and structuring it properly also. तो मैं भी एक छोटा सा experience अपना share करूंगा in one of my organizations where I worked, कि जहां पर हम at Mencom level we just could not even decide to initiate the quarterly awards because उसमें conflict हो गया कि जी इसका assessment कैसे होगा, ये assessment कौन करेगा, who will be nominating whom, and then who will decide upon the awards. Eventually वो दो Mencoms में discussion होने के बाद तीसरे में वो एजेंडा से गायब हो गया because we just could not decide कि ये होगा क्या, which is utterly disappointing. So now opening up the floor for each one of you, and I'll just say a bit, and then you guys can come up with your observations on that or something else as well. शकील ने जो ये बात की कि हमारे यहाँ कल्चर नहीं है, और most of us endorse that, which is true. So now, since we haven't grown up in a culture in a society where where naturally appreciating comes to us, or sometimes ego also blocks us. कि मैं क्यों कर दूं इसको appreciate, मैं इसकी तारीफ कैसे कर दूं, मतलब why? और फिर उसके बाद आखिरी बात, before the floor is open for all of you, is कि हम जब ये करने का अगर सोच भी लेते हैं इंडिविजुअली इन आवर माइंड कि नहीं नहीं मैं ये करता हूं, मैं अप्रिशिएट करता हूं, तो हमें समहाउ कहीं से एक आवाज आती है, हमारे अंदर से भी आती है कभी कभी, कि भाई अगर ये तारीफ कर दी तो कहीं ये चौड़ा ना हो जाए, तो फिर बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाएगा इससे काम लेना. सो दैट्स हाउ आल्सो वी थिंक एट टाइम्स, एंड दैट्स आल्सो वेरी आई वुड से सैड, बट दैट्स हाउ इट इज. कई दफा मुझसे मेरे कान में ये आवाज आती है और कभी मेरे अंदर से भी आवाज आती है कि भाई ये तो फैल जाएगा, तो बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाएगा इसको मैनेज करना, तो तारीफ छोड़ ही दो, अभी ना.
दिल की बात कहती है आपने,
दिल की बात कहनी है. एंड देन द वे लाइन मैनेजर्स कनेक्ट विद देयर एम्प्लॉइज इन आवर रिस्पेक्टिव ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, इन आवर कंट्री स्पेशली, तो वहां पर हम अलूफ रहते हैं अपने टीम मेंबर्स के साथ, बजाय उनके साथ मिक्स होने के. वंस अगेन फॉर द रीजन कि अगर ज्यादा घुल मिल गए तो वो गड़बड़ हो जाएगी, तो थोड़ा सा अपना डिस्टेंस रखें. सो एनीवे, सो आई वुड लव कमेंट्स फ्रॉम एनी वन ऑफ यू.
Ashar, I just want to add on, because you touched the ego, which I was actually going to say, that I give you an example. When I enter a mall, and of course I see these people coming in with their families into the mall. So generally the tendency that you hold the door so that they pass through, because they're almost near you. So when they pass through, and I'm expecting somebody to say thank you, and then I have to shout back to them saying thank you, and then they just wonder, what's the reason? Why am I saying thank you to them? So it's ingrained that, and of course some people just walk with their heads high up as if I am just a peasant and he's the guy who has to be there. And there are people like this in the organization. So you're very rightly touched. It is the ego that we have to kill that, and how do we want to appreciate? Now, in a society where recognition is very high, like in the West, you find in the UK, is really high, because when you the people who are receiving the request, the recognition, are also very humble. They do not. They actually bow down more. So rather than, if you recognize the people who are receiving the recognition, they also get, humbled out of it. And that's the most important thing. And I think that is something missing. So we need to inculcate that. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, gentlemen or lady.
काफी देर से.
So अशर भाई, थैंक यू वेरी मच. बहुत अच्छा आपने जो है ना वो जो है ना टॉपिक छेड़ा है. एंड आई थिंक आपकी बात से एक बात निकाल रहा हूँ कि यू सेड चौड़ा ना हो जाए. तो एक्चुअली चौड़ा तो करना है. एक्चुअली जो है वो आपने चौड़ा ही करना है, क्योंकि उसने बहुत सारा काम करना है, आपकी टीम का पार्ट है. So this is one thing we missed out. Or again, one more personal experience is that yes, there are always people जो के खामखाई छोड़े हो जाएंगे. Yes, there are people. But from my personal experience, I would say fine. Out of 10, 2 or 3 people. But for those 2-3 people, why are you compromising on the retention or recognition of the rest of the 7 people? So yes, there will be 2-3 people who will take advantage and will take praise as something fine. उसको entitlement के तौर पे ले लेंगे. But at the same point in time, there are people who are they genuinely want acknowledgement. They genuinely want validation, and I have seen people who still remain humble. So I personally feel and at the end of the day, if you say हम सारे बेलकर भी बनाते हैं, तो at the end of the day और उसमें से अगर टॉप में 10 में से 2 या 3 लोग ही हैं, तो आई वुड से अगर 7 लोग ही हुए बिला वजह चौड़े हो जाएं, लेकिन जो सही वाले 3 अगर चौड़े हो रहे हैं ना, तो आई वुड टेक इट, बिकॉज एट द एंड ऑफ द डे those are the 3 or 4 people whom you need on a long term basis, and the other can run the system, come and go. So at the end of the day, the objective should remain clear. ये important नहीं है, जैसे Mapara bhai was mentioning that you are holding a door for somebody and he just passed through, and then you have to remind him or her that hello, thank you, and they would see your face amazed that क्या रहा है. Actually आजकल लोगों को समझ में भी नहीं आती, but at the same point in time ये भी देखने की जरूरत है, self reflection for me as well and all of us, that are we those also जो कभी कभार ये behavior show करते हैं, because given a scenario and we being part of the society, sometimes we also reflect those kind of behavior. So we as ourselves should not do this, and at the same point in time, if you are doing it तो चौड़ा तो करना है. तो my philosophy is that कि अगर उससे थोड़ा बहुत चौड़ा हो रहा है, तो I would take it, because at the end of the day you want that culture to prevail, and when you do it consistently, as Salma mentioned, the intervention should be consistent enough, then at the end of the day the culture would itself balance out.
Thank you very much. I think that's very true. We shouldn't really be thinking about the fact कि कुछ लोग ऐसे जो उतने अच्छे नहीं हैं वो चौड़े हो जाएंगे. That cost is fine enough, good enough to pay for those who are really beneficial and productive for the organization. I think that's a very good point. So yes, Saima, do you have yes, Adil, please go ahead.
Sorry, just wanted to add a thing. So maybe दरख्त जितना फलदार होता है उतना झुकता है, और वो I was going through Dawn में एक छोटा सा क्लिप था some time back of the fourth caliph कि जिस पे एहसान करो उसके शर से डरो. So अब that does not mean कि हम एहसान करते जाएं और उसका शर आता जाएगा, शर आएगा. इसमें हमें एक चीज़ बड़ी important देखनी चाहिए कि those people who do not recognize the recognition are not culturally fit with the organization, and there is some problem with your sourcing philosophy in the organization, whereby while inducting those people, you haven't tested them on the software and the behavioral and attitude, or maybe some other aspects of the sourcing, whereby haven't judged the capacity, haven't judged the humbleness, and haven't judged the attitude of an individual. Because cultures जो होते हैं ना, देखिए एक तो 100, 200, 300 साल वाली ऑर्गेनाइजेशन चली आ रही हैं जिनका कल्चर आज सेट हो चुका हुआ है, एंड these type of examples are less than 1% because वो होता क्या है कि locally influence कर देते हैं. But जो organization transform हो रही होती हैं from a traditional organizations to the right practices and to the best practices and to whatever practices, उनको ये बहुत trouble होती है इस तरह के लोगों को set करते हुए. Though they are identified as a potentials in the organization, but at the end of the day, they have an severe attitude, and we are very much reluctant in terms of taking the tough calls for their attitude. So यहाँ पर reprimand बड़ा जरूरी होता है कि देखें वो जब अज़ाज़ील अल्लाह ताला के पास गया था ना, तो वो भी उनसे आर्ग्यू कर रहा था जो इब्लीस था, क्योंकि वो बहुत कॉम्पिटेंट था. So competent people does not mean that they're good with attitude. So he had an argument and he was thrown out of the Jannah to the ज़मीन. So हर competent आदमी जो है वो उसकी communication भी अच्छी होगी, उसकी interpersonal skills भी अच्छी होगी, उसका competence level भी अच्छा होगा, लेकिन उसका attitude जो है ना वो judge करना जरूरी होगा. So ये balance करना 360 balance करना बड़ा जरूरी होगा. So these are my couple of my cents here.
Also,
I think right. Yes, please. Yes, go ahead, Simon.
generally, I think आप में से किसी ने बात की थी, it is not just HR's baby, it's every manager's responsibility. Usually, the mindset which prevails is कि, काम तो कर रहे हैं, उनको करना है, because they are getting paid for it. You know, that's what they're supposed to do. So this is the mindset I talk to line managers, general line management के साथ. So what they miss to understand is that it is important to make your workplace more humane, more inclusive. Uh, it's more of a very mechanical kind of management style, जो कि normally line management जिस तरह से चल रही है. Just for them, they need to get the work done. So I think it's also on us, the HR fraternity, how to inculcate these elements into the culture of the organization. And definitely it starts from the top. So this is something which we are also currently working on. We ran a diagnostic program to find out where the gaps are. Recently, we launched a whole new set of core competencies for the organization, which are strictly derived from the core values. So the how part, the values, the intangibles, that's all these areas ये आपके कल्चर को ड्राइव कर रहे होते हैं और परफॉर्मेंस बॉटम लाइन टॉप लाइन आपकी उस पर तो बहुत फोकस है but I very strongly feel that this is one of the areas which is mostly neglected by the senior management, especially to work on the line managers. They're expected to produce results, but at the same time they do not understand कि उनके पास जो टीम दी हुई है वो उनकी जिम्मेदारी है, उनको कैसे ड्राइव करना है, उनको कैसे मोटिवेटेड रखना है. When I spoke to one of the line managers, it's about yesterday only, a core hardcore techno commercial guy, sales engineer. So he was said कि what are you talking about? भाई इनको पैसे किस बात के मिलते हैं, काम करने के तो मिलते हैं. So this is the mindset that prevails, and I feel कि ये problem यहाँ पर the root causes here कि लोगों का mindset और वो cultural bit उसको inculcate करने की I think बहुत ज़रूरत है.
बेशक बेशक ऐसा ही है बिल्कुल. आई थिंक दिस इज राइटली पॉइंटेड आउट. एक्चुअली चूंकि ऑल ऑफ अस बिलोंग टू द एचआर फ्रेटर्निटी, तो थोड़ी सी मैं ये तो नहीं कहूंगा कि हमें अपनी तारीफ कर लेनी चाहिए, लेकिन इतना जरूर है दैट एचआर इज फेस्ड with really some of the biggest challenges which are present across the organization, because HR न सिर्फ ये कि अपने नीचे वालों की तरबियत का जिम्मेदार है, बल्कि नीचे वालों की तरबियत का प्रोसेस जो है वो काफी चैलेंजिंग हो जाता है अगर ऊपर वालों की तरबियत ना हो रही. और ऊपर वालों की तरबियत करना कोई आसान काम नहीं है. That's actually much more challenging than when you try and train and groom the middle management or lower management, because वो feel करते हैं due to the culture that all of us have highlighted during the discussion, वो feel करते हैं entitled that हम तो बिल्कुल ठीक है. And actually everything since it emanates from the top, तो बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है फिर उस कल्चर को ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का हिस्सा बनाना. So yes, these are the challenges. लेकिन आपने साइमा जो बात की थी बिल्कुल शुरू में, वो मैं बात करके then I'll again open the ground. We have another 12 to 13 minutes left. अब वो बात थी pace of change की, और आपने जो एग्जांपल चाइना की दी थी that for 90 days retention they are giving a bonus. I think that is mind-boggling and a reality as well. तो रिजवान ने जो शुरू में कहा था कि जी 10 साल और 20 साल और 25 साल का अवार्ड, तो I think that's no more that's no more in vogue. अब हमें देखना है कि ये Gen Zs जो हैं जिनकी बात आदिल ने की, ये Gen Zs के साथ हमें करना क्या है, वो कौन सी चीजें करनी है और उनकी नीड्स क्या है which can make them feel recognized and can also retain them in the organization.
So Shakil, you were saying something?
Go ahead, please, and then I'll say.
So thank you. I would say not only Gen Z, and from a very simple experiment, I can right now maybe even prove that even the non-Gen Zs are those people who need recognition and spot recognition. And as HR fraternity, this is something for us also to self-reflect that yes, we do a lot of strategic work, we do a lot of diagnostics, but at the same point in time, sometimes very simple things work well than those complicated things. And I can give you an example. During COVID, we were struggling to keep a connect with our field people. Most of the office-based people were working from home, and they were, and our field-based staff was working because electricity is an essential commodity. And one very simple recognition or appreciation tool came up from very junior member of the team, that while we are struggling to connect, why can't this happen that all the senior people in the organization, including myself, will get one mobile phone number every day, and they should call not from their mobile, so that it gets a feeling that मैं घर से बैठा हुआ कॉल कर रहा हूँ, क्योंकि लीडरशिप वुड, हम लीडर एज लीडरशिप हम रोज दफ्तर आ रहे थे थोड़ी देर के लिए, तो जब मैं थोड़ी देर दफ्तर आता हूँ, तो देन आई कम हियर ऑफिस के नंबर से, आई वुड कॉल ऑन रैंडम वन पर्सन वर्किंग इन द फील्ड, अप्रिशिएट वट एवर दे आर डूइंग, उनसे रोज जो उनके साथ परेशानी हो रही है उसके बारे में पूछ लूँ, family ke bare mein I can talk about, and then close in 10 to 15 minutes. And the kind of engagement that created, and the kind of connect that created during the COVID days, that was amazing. So my point is that yes, we try to copy, and we try to create a lot of complicated things as well as HR friendly, and myself as well. हमने काफी सारी ऐसे processes भी किए हैं जो कि थोड़े ऐसे बाद हमें बंद करने पड़े, as Saima was mentioning. But sometimes simplicity is the answer to all these things. और सिर्फ ये phone calls we were able to create a lot of connect. वो जो बंदा होता था वो पूरे दिन पूरे हफ्ते बात करता था कि आज मुझे रिजवान ने कॉल किया था and he was asking about this thing. तो देखो 2-4 दिन बाद तुम्हें भी किसी की कॉल आएगी, and people were really happy about it.
Excellent, very good example. And this actually, these are the kind of things that create a emotional connect. Yes, Shakil, please go ahead.
No, actually, Mr. Rizwan actually already answered that. I was also going to say the same thing, that recognition tools, whether you service awards or whether this 90 days spot award, you need to all have them as a menu, and of course use them for people who receive that. I mean, of course, you tell a youngster who's joining that I'll give you a 25 years award, he's not interested. But somebody who has done 24 years and he knows he's going to get a 25 years award makes a lot of difference, because it checks loyalty as well. So you need to recognize. I just wanted to take up the question that came up from Mr. Beg, that we have to create a culture where there's appreciation needs. And I just want to link also what Adil rightly said, that you have to check on the people's soft skills when we hire people. So on that, I would also say that the line must trust HR when they look at the profile differently than from the business. Because he rightly said, and it's not just from the start, but also we take on that when we are putting people in positions that is determining high potential. Again, Adil pointed out, people who are very vocal, who can talk about, who are competitive, who just boast about things, we think he's a high potential because he's so strong and confident and comes out. But the person who doesn't, and also is intelligent, could be a high potential. It could be an asset to your culture. So both can perform, one in a very negative vocal way and one in a positive way. So very frankly, it's not just, of course, at the hiring, but it goes on towards selecting people for positions right at the first stage, because this is where you build the base for your leadership. And to answer that question on the culture needs, absolutely. You build that culture, what Adil talked about, that getting people, the right people, you groom people, you make people show that you have recognition for all ages, as Adil and Saima were talking about. You have the culture, and then appreciation speaks itself. Thank you.
Mr. Shakil, you have rightly highlighted a very pertinent issue faced by HR professionals, wherein they are not allowed to exercise this right of looking at the cultural fit, the suitability of the candidate. But how do you think this particular thing can see the light of the day in the organization? Whose support is required, where HR is allowed to play this role?
You want to take the answer? Anyone?
It's $1 million question.
देखिए, हम as a HR जो है ना, I think sometimes we also not track. So, for example, fine, there was a difference of opinion between HR and the line that you don't take somebody, but that person was taken for obviously the right reasons, because the profile was a good match. But as HR, we thought that it will not be a good cultural fit, or the soft skills are not there. But sometimes it helps that you track those people, not because that you want them to fail, but maybe on a periodic basis, saal mein ek dafa, when you also just show a mirror that, and maybe not in public, but in one-on-one conversation with those senior people, that see what happened in the last 1 year. So performance is there, but there were other issues that were faced. So, and that creates an environment whereby they start realizing the importance of HR's comments or feedback while the hiring was being done, and slowly and gradually. So it will not be a very small, very short process, a long drawn one. But again, if we try to highlight it on a periodic basis, not in public, so that people don't get defensive in one-on-one conversation with our senior leaders, I personally feel that that helps, and get the message across that whenever HR gives that feedback, start believing in them and trusting them.
So we have 2 more minutes before we start moving towards the close.
As I said, it's $1 million. Yeah,
Yes, go
so
ahead,
few
Adil, go
seconds.
ahead.
आपका सवाल का सीधा सीधा जवाब है आपके सवाल का सीधा सीधा जवाब है कि it has to come from the top. Frankly speaking, अगर वो top aligned नहीं है, तो that means you and I are sitting at a wrong place. And at this session, and the top does not have a finance, and the top does not have maybe culturally fit or maybe a background of being suitable to work in an organization, so it's a total nightmare. Secondly, I think let's appreciate कि एक दूसरे को शकील भाई, thank you very much, आपने मुझे मेरा बार बार रेफर किया, तो thank you very much for the appreciation that you have given me. So अगर हम अपने लेवल पे भी इस चीज़ों को स्टार्ट करें और डे लेवल पे, everyday लेवल पे करें, तो I think the world would be a different world, inshallah.
Right. Just to very quickly close on that thing that you asked this thing. I mean, there has to be an understanding done. That's why I said, if you have a culture of understanding in people, right, to start, before even hiring any person, right or wrong, it's that makes the person more aligned. So you have a cooperative kind of cooperational, I mean, that kind of culture, then people understand and respect HR, and you respect the business as well. Of course, there would be plus minus adjustments sometimes, and you say, okay, we'll live into it and we will just develop that person, which is fine. But at the same time, you need to, and that's the role that HR needs to play. But again, yes, if both the CEO, management, and HR are not on one platform, then it doesn't work. So it's very important for the top leadership to understand this.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you very much. So I come to the close now, and before I thank each one of you, just to recap the key learnings that have come out of the discussion, and I think it has been a very rich discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I'll pick up from where Mr. Rizwan left. It was a good proposal that he presented to answer the question that if even CEO or the top management is not really very forthcoming towards HR's allowance or right to look at the cultural fit for the organization, then we need to create data points. We need to create documentation, which will eventually, over a period of time, HR can come back and say that these were the candidates who were hired and who have performed in this particular fashion as against what HR deemed them to be. And here is the documentary proof of that. So it will start inculcating in them gradually, because I personally believe that every change is a result of evolution and not revolution. So it will happen over time, but then HR has to consistently do that. Now, coming back to the recap thing, I think we spoke about the overall situation of society where we don't have a culture of appreciation, and emanating out of that being the fundamental point, we promoted and we recommended a lot of things which came from all of you in shape of spot rewards, in shape of instant recognition, in shape of the fact that we have to have more quick feedback to the employees rather than waiting for a certain period of time. And it has to be something which we say recognition on the go, because it cannot happen that we do not appreciate employees on a daily basis. That's what they look for, that's what they ask for, and whether it is right or wrong, we are into an age of instant gratification also. People like to see likes on their post, and no matter how much we detest it, कि ये कोई अच्छी बात नहीं है कि इतना जल्दी जल्दी चीजों को जो है उसका रिजल्ट एक्सपेक्ट करना, but that's how is the ground reality. So we need to kind of absorb that and come up with initiatives, design programs which can actually address that. Because when we talk about Gen Z and the country we are living in, we have 65% of people, as we all know, who are below 30 or 25. So ye to hai Gen Zs who were born from 97 onwards. And increasingly, they will become part of the workforce. I think by 2030, good 25 to 30% of the people working in an organization will be Gen Zs. So we need to be prepared for them, and we need to take into account what are their needs and requirements so that they are treated accordingly. Yes, Shakil rightly said that the ones who have completed 24 years have to be recognized as well, and they will wait for the 25th year. So we need to have a mix of recognition initiatives in place, structured and consistent as highlighted by Saima, so that we can address all facets of the organization. And obviously, this is not an exhaustive discussion. We can continue talking on this subject, which is very close to the hearts of all of us. But I really thank each one of you, starting from Mr. Rizwan Dalia, Ms. Saima Imam, Mr. Shakil Mapara, and Mr. Adil Riaz, that you took time out on a weekend, became part of the CxO show, and inshallah, we'll continue to enrich the students of HR like all of us. And I think these kind of discourses should carry on. Thank you very much, all of you, once again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Educated us. That's made our day, actually. So that's a lot.
Very
Thank
kind
you.
of each one of you. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.